Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're taking a historical shortcut, not by cutting corners, but by going straight down.
Literally down.
Literally down. We're heading beneath the surface of, well, a really bustling modern European city, Naples, Italy.
Ah, Naples. Okay.
And we're exploring this monument where the only real constant seems to have been, well, change itself.
Intriguing.
Our focus today is Naples' subterranean secret, the Bourbon Tunnel, or the Galleria Borbonica, as they call it there.
Right.
And this isn't just some old cellar or drain pipe, It's this sprawling, huge, man-made labyrinth.
Massive.
And its purpose has changed fundamentally. I mean, at least 5 times since it was first conceived.
5 times. That's a lot for one structure.
Exactly. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our deep dive today is into this one specific subterranean relic. We're tracing its journey from, get this, a private royal escape route to a necessary public hospital during wartime, and then eventually just a forgotten, buried junkyard of history.
Wow. Quite the life cycle.
Our goal here is really to show you how one single location can witness, sort of simultaneously, centuries of really conflicting political and social changes.
Yeah, and I think if you really want to understand the true sort of layered history of a place like Naples, you have to look down.
Right, below the pavement.
Exactly. This tunnel, it's physically deep beneath the city's heart, sure, but it's also deep in its timeline. It acts like a historical core sample,
That's a great way to put it, a core sample.
And each change in its function you mentioned, from elite escape to mass public shelter, each one reflects a huge shift in the needs, the power structures happening above ground.
Yeah.
So this dive, it'll really show you how profoundly history can be layered, all in one single place.
Okay, so to start this story, we need to rewind a bit. Back to the mid-1800s.
The mid-19th century.
Okay. And the name itself, Bourbon Tunnel, that's our first big clue, right? Points us to a specific monarch.
King Ferdinand II.
Exactly. Who had this very specific and maybe slightly paranoid vision. Let's start right there with the origin story.
Well, its beginning is purely political. It was commissioned by King Ferdinand II of Bourbon back in 1853.
1853.
Yeah. And you have to remember the context then. Italy was, rumbling towards unification.
Right, the Risorgimento.
Precisely. And the Bourbon monarchy in Naples felt, well, an existential threat. So Ferdinand wasn't building some kind of public work here.
No.
He was building an insurance policy for himself.
An insurance policy that involved digging this massive tunnel. Can you maybe detail the specific intention? I mean, why go to all that effort? It sounds huge.
It was a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And the purpose was explicitly strategic.
Yeah.
Safe passage. That was the whole point.
Safe passage for who?
For the king and the royal family.
Yeah.
The tunnel was specifically engineered to connect the royal palace where they lived
Okay.
directly with the military barracks, which were then in Via della Pace. It's Via Morelli now.
Right, so a direct line to the army.
Exactly. If revolution broke out, which was a very real fear, or if, the political situation just turned nasty for him, he and his family would have this protected, private way to get to the safety of his soldiers. It was literally a lifeline designed purely for elite escape.
So, born out of necessity, maybe, but definitely a dose of royal anxiety there.
You could say that, yeah.
But here's where the story takes its first really interesting turn. Despite this grand vision, this huge project, the tunnel was never actually finished.
Correct.
It was abandoned pretty quickly, wasn't it? After the king died just a few years later.
That's right. And that abandonment, that's the real pivot point for everything that follows.
How so?
Well, because the project stalled, Ferdinand died, and then the Bourbon reign itself collapsed not long after. This enormous strategic piece of infrastructure never actually served its original purpose.
Right. It never got used for an escape.
Never. So it wasn't a finished royal tunnel. It was just this colossal, empty, hollowed-out space beneath the city, basically available for whatever the next regime wanted to do with it.
A failure that kind of set the stage for the 20th century.
Precisely. It was a royal failure that became an opportunity, or maybe a repository, for this century that followed.
Okay, so let's jump forward. The next chapter for this tunnel is, it's bizarre and pretty dramatic.
It really is.
We leap several decades ahead to the early 1930s. This unfinished Bourbon Tunnel finally gets repurposed, but not for safety, not for royalty. It takes on this almost, film noir kind of function, strangely modern.
Yeah, this phase is maybe one of the most memorable, mostly because of the stuff they left behind.
Right.
Under Mussolini's fascist government in the 30s, The tunnel was basically transformed into a storage facility. Think of it like a subterranean impound lot.
An impound lot, underground.
Yeah, but here's the twist. It stored seized and illicit vehicles.
Illicit vehicles, like getaway cars.
Well, maybe some.
Yeah.
But also high-end cars, motorcycles, even old carriages, stuff confiscated, maybe involved in black market dealings or, belonging to opponents of the regime.
Wait a minute. Storing vehicles, like actual cars, in this unfinished, rough-hewn tunnel right under the city, was that even practical or safe?
Practical. Maybe not ideal. But it was convenient and, importantly, discreet.
Ah.
The fascist regime was big on centralizing control, cracking down on crime, both organized and political, and they needed a place to stash the evidence. Or maybe the spoils.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating, the visual. Imagine walking into this dark, damp, dusty cavern.
Yeah.
And just seeing rows of these, expensive 1930s cars and motorcycles just sitting there, rusting away in the gloom.
And that detail you mentioned, that some of these vehicles are still down there, sort of frozen in time, that really captures it.
It does.
It's like this dusty, accidental museum to, I guess, organized crime and state control from that era.
Couldn't put it better myself. But like everything with this tunnel, that function didn't last too long either.
Why not?
Because history, specifically World War II, came roaring into Naples.
Yeah.
And the entire purpose of that space changed almost overnight. It pivoted completely.
From storing confiscated goods?
To saving human lives.
Yeah. That's whiplash. It's just bizarre to think of it holding, like, illicit luxury goods 1 minute.
Right.
And then literally sheltering hundreds, maybe thousands of people the next. How quickly did that pivot happen when the war started affecting Naples?
Oh, it was immediate.
Yeah.
And driven purely by desperation. When the Allied bombing started hitting Naples hard.
Which they did. Naples was heavily bombed.
Extremely heavily bombed, especially between 40 and 43.
Yeah.
The city desperately needed large, deep, reinforced shelters.
Yeah.
And they needed them fast.
And there was the Galleria Borbonica.
Already dug. Deep underground. Relatively secure. It was perfect. So it transformed into this massive public sanctuary.
Wow.
And it actually took on 2 crucial functions during the war.
Okay, what were they?
First, it became a military hospital. They used the cool, stable underground conditions for emergency surgery, recovery.
Makes sense.
And second, it served as a huge air raid shelter for the general population.
So it went fully public.
Completely public, which highlights this incredible democratization of the space, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. From the king's private panic room
to a public lifeline, literally housing and protecting ordinary Neapolitans who were facing, nightly threats from the air raids.
I'm trying to imagine the atmosphere down there. What did the sources tell us about what it was actually like for people sheltering in the tunnel? Must have been intense.
Oh, harrowing, but vital, utterly vital. People would spend days down there sometimes, packed shoulder to shoulder, just weeding out the bombing raids. Yes. The sources describe it becoming like a small, temporary underground city. They set up temporary latrines. There was basic medical care available.
Wow.
And maybe most importantly, it created this shared experience. A grim one, but shared. It bonded people together.
So the tunnel, originally meant to separate the king from the people,
ended up being the very place that forced the people together in survival. Kind of ironic, isn't it?
Deeply ironic. Okay, so that period of intense public service, sheltering the city, eventually the war ended. The lights came back on in Naples. What happened to the tunnel then? Did they clean it up, preserve it, or?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it became the latter, a convenient garbage chute.
Really? After all that?
Well, think about it. The immediate post-war years, all focus was on rebuilding the city above ground.
True. Priorities.
Exactly. And the tunnel, now maybe structurally compromised in places after the bombing, definitely filled with the debris and residue of thousands of people living there. It just became the city's dumping ground.
So they just started throwing rubbish down there.
Construction debris, wreckage from the war itself, wrecked cars, rubble, and maybe most interestingly, a whole trove of politically sensitive items.
Okay, this is where that layered history gets incredibly pointed, right?
Yeah.
We know about the cars and rubble, but tell us about these pro-fascist statues. That sounds highly symbolic.
Oh, it's intensely symbolic. After the fall of Mussolini and the fascist regime, there was this widespread push across Italy to erase the symbols of the dictatorship from public view. Defascistification.
Right. Tear down the statues, rename the streets.
Exactly. But destroying every single statue or monument, that's time-consuming, it's expensive. Sometimes it was just easier and maybe more discreet.
To just bury them.
To just bury them. And the tunnel provided this perfect, deep, and critically soon-to-be-forgotten place to dump these unwanted political symbols.
Wow.
It became a literal subterranean graveyard for fascist iconography, a place where the city could quietly dispose of its very recent, very uncomfortable past.
So the debris and wrecked cars were just convenient dumping.
But the statues, that was more like political cleansing, hidden away.
And then what? They just sealed it up?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Shortly after the war, the entrances were sealed. It became essentially this massive, forgotten junkyard frozen in the late 1940s.
It's genuinely hard to wrap your head around that. A structure that big.
It's huge.
That served as a hospital, a shelter for thousands.
Yeah.
Just completely sealed up and basically lost to memory, right underneath a major European city.
It seems incredible, but it happens, especially in cities with as much history and as many layers as Naples.
So let's talk about that period of forgetting. For decades, it was just gone, a blank spot on the map, until this key moment of rediscovery you mentioned in 2005.
That's right. For about 50 years, it was largely forgotten, sealed off. And the rediscovery itself, well, like so many of these big urban finds, it was completely accidental.
Not some historian poking around?
Nope. It wasn't historians, wasn't archaeologists actively looking for it. It was government geologists.
Geologists. Doing what?
They were doing routine safety checks, basically, studying geological stability in nearby quarries and old cistern systems under the city.
Okay.
And they just stumbled into this sealed-off labyrinth. They were looking for, potential subsidence risks or structural problems.
And instead they found
an entirely preserved historical ecosystem from the 1940s. Cars, statues, wartime remnants. It was an accidental archaeological find of major significance.
That must have been a shock.
I imagine so. And it really raises that fascinating question, doesn't it? For all of us living in older cities, how much active material history is just lying there, right beneath our feet, totally unknown?
Yeah. For 50 years, people in Naples were walking right over this sealed time capsule.
Containing 1930s cars, medical supplies from the war, discarded political statues.
Yeah.
Completely oblivious.
The mind boggles. But thankfully, there's a happy ending to this part of the story. The Galleria Borbonica, after its life as a royal failure and a public dump, it now belongs to the public again, right?
Yeah.
But for appreciation this time.
Exactly. It's been excavated, made safe in sections, and opened up.
So visitors can actually go down there now?
Yes, you can. You can traverse parts of these caverns, explore the different pathways.
And see those layers of history you talked about?
Right there in front of you, you see the original Bourbon-era stonework. Right next to, say, a rusted 1930s Fiat, which might be near remnants of the wartime shelter signs or equipment. It's all laid bare.
It sounds like it offers this really direct, powerful glimpse into Naples' incredibly storied, often chaotic past.
It really does.
Yeah.
And if we just sort of connect this back to the bigger picture, the tunnel's whole story is this profound lesson in historical flexibility, or maybe adaptability.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the sequence of uses we've traced for you, the listener. It's almost absurd when you list them out.
Go on.
Okay. Conceived as a royal escape route, then used for illicit vehicle storage, then a life-saving wartime hospital and shelter, then a dumping ground for debris and politically charged statues, and now, finally, a historical attraction and museum.
5 distinct lives.
At least 5. And what's so fascinating here is that the physical space itself, the tunnel, it barely changed. Its function, its meaning, was entirely dictated by the political turmoil, the social needs, the pressures happening on the surface above it.
Yeah.
So you have this one single physical space holding 5 distinct and often contradictory historical eras within its walls.
That is quite the dramatic journey, especially for a structure that, as you said, was never even completed for its original purpose.
Exactly. It failed at its first job.
The Bourbon Tunnel really does feel like this silent, physical witness to history, doesn't it? Emphasizing all those unexpected twists and turns in its life. From, paranoid monarch's grand design to a temporary wartime sanctuary, and then this place of, post-war political burial, essentially.
And knowing that history, it just gives you such a richer understanding than, say, just reading about King Ferdinand or World War II in Naples in a history book.
How so?
Because it shows you that historical sites aren't static. They're not just monuments defined by a single plaque or a single date. They're dynamic. They're like canvases that get constantly overwritten, repurposed by later generations.
Right, layers upon layers.
Exactly. And understanding those layers, the complex, sometimes conflicting histories, that's really crucial if you want to grasp the true context of an ancient, complicated city like Naples. Or any old city, really.
Okay, so we should probably leave you, the listener, with a final thought. building on this really fascinating idea of forgotten urban spaces. If a structure as vast, as significant as the Bourbon Tunnel, something that housed cars, statues, evidence of a massive wartime effort, if that could be completely forgotten, sealed away for decades right beneath the center of a major European city.
Yeah.
Well, what other remnants of history might still be waiting down there, waiting to be found, maybe explored by you? Perhaps it's just worth taking a closer look sometimes at what might lie beneath the seemingly solid ground of your own everyday environment.
Makes you think, doesn't it?